Hey you witches, how you doing today? Welcome back to the channel. My name is Taya, and today we're going to do a book review of Urban Magic, A Guide for the City Witch by Diana Rachel. It's kind of an interesting book. I'm honestly not sure what to think, so let's get into it. The back cover says, "Uncover the magic hidden between sidewalk cracks." And that's exactly what I want. A book about working magic in an urban setting. And I'm not sure if this book delivers that. It does, but it kind of doesn't. So, the pros. I have a very long-held, strongly held belief that humans are part of nature. And everything that we create is therefore part of nature too, including all the synthetics. Now, I mean, obviously they're very removed from the raw components, which came from the earth, but they are still part of nature. Like everything that we create is part of nature, just like any other species on earth. So I love that she takes the stance that all synthetics started in nature, that nature is all around us. We just need to recognize it. She actually has exercises, or an exercise, where you take something like, you could start with like a wooden banister in your house, right? And connecting with the spirit of earth through it, recognizing that it's made of wood and that wood comes from a tree, which is like nature. Right through to connecting with something made of glass that again comes from, I believe it's like silica or whatever, right? Sand basically, and processing that. And so therefore it comes from nature, to then looking at something like your cell phone, which has a glass cover on it. Has a plastic case, which is a petrochemical derivative, which comes from the oil in the earth, which comes from the decomposed bodies of species and plants long ago. So it's really kind of, it's interesting that she takes this same, she confirms sort of my beliefs, and that got me really excited. She brings up some questions though, where I'm like, She specifically states, land spirits are different than city spirits. That a city spirit is not the genius loci of a place. I would have liked more information on that. Because to me, I'm not seeing if everything is nature, then why are we differentiating between the city spirit and the genius loci of the place? To me, they're kind of the same thing. And maybe she's got more information. Do you know what I mean? I just wish she would back that up a little bit more. Right? So there's some good stuff. There's some questions. And then there's this, I don't want to call it a con. It's not a con. It's just not what I was expecting. There is a strong activism theme throughout this book. It's basically the main premise of the book. The focus is on healing the city wound. Now, I don't know, can one practitioner do that? I could see making a difference in your own neighborhood and having that sort of ripple out and affect maybe a bit of change in your city, but it is very much about identifying and healing the city wound. Not about being a witch in the city, but about becoming basically a city priest, entering the priesthood of your city and serving the greater good of your city. Okay, that's not really what I'm looking to do. We'll talk about that more a little bit later. There are some really interesting parts of this book about the history and development of cities over time, how and why cities began, city planning layouts, all the differing city planning layouts over, especially like from the 1900s, and how the focus of how your city was planned can affect the city spirit. I mean, it definitely makes me want to know more about my city. Right? She talks about how energy moves through cities, and how that can be affected by like how neighborhoods are laid out and their purposes, etc. How it follows transit and traffic patterns. Really interesting stuff. She's got a great chapter on working with the 4 elements and being able to tap into them in an urban setting, tap in and work with them in an urban setting. So overall, it's a really interesting read. And there are definitely pieces to pick out and incorporate into a personal practice. But it is really more about the priesthood path. And not just sort of about the priesthood path, but there is an expectation in this book that you will work through activism for the greater good of your city. Now, I appreciate that sentiment. Traditionally, though, witchcraft has been sort of the craft of the disenfranchised and the marginalized, right? It's about looking to create a toehold, to elevate yourself and make your own personal situation better. And this expectation of activism for this greater good feels very love and light, 80s and 90s witchcraft, right? We're not Satanists. Ooh, we need to like do better, and we're here to like enhance our communities. It's really about calling you into a priesthood so that you can be in service to others, not to yourself, but to others. And as a person, like just as a solitary personal practitioner, I'm like, I don't know that really speaks to me. And I don't want to be like, I don't want better things for my city. I certainly do. But I definitely feel overwhelmed when thinking about healing my city's wound. I live in a city that has a lot of homelessness, systemic racism, drug dependence, right? Like just as an example, if you want to talk about a city wound, over COVID, actually the provincial government closed safe injection sites, therefore creating this there's already an opioid pandemic, but just making it so much worse among that sort of homeless population in our downtown core. And it's just exploded everywhere. It's scary. And the idea that I personally, and that I am somehow responsible, right? This expectation that if you are a witch in a city, it is sort of your responsibility to be looking out for this, city spirit and healing the city wounds. And that makes me very uncomfortable. Maybe I need to do some shadow work. I don't know. But it makes me very uncomfortable, this idea that you as an individual are somehow responsible for fixing these huge systemic problems. I do, however, see how this could be a really great book to work with if you had a coven, if you had a group of you practicing together who lived in the same city. That feels doable to me, right? A group of us will get together. I mean, literally, she is calling you to like create mural art pieces to affect and work magic through it to affect the overall, atmosphere of a neighborhood. And I'm like, what? But that's a huge undertaking. Again, maybe if you had like a coven of people and you were all wanting to work to this greater good, I could definitely see that. But me as an individual practitioner, it just feels a little out of touch. So I'll give you the chapters so you have an idea of what it's about. I mean, it's an interesting book and I did take a lot from it, but this activism piece really just sort of felt uncomfortable for me. So there's 11 chapters. What is urban magic? Laws of urban magic. Foundation skills for urban magic. The birth of cities. Super interesting. Urban design as occult art. Again, very interesting. About city layouts, how you design urban spaces and how that can affect sort of the magic and the flow of the energy in the city. So interesting. Urban art and magic. Nature Magic in the Cement Jungle. I think that's the chapter that has like working with the, you can getting in touch with the 4 elements in an urban setting. Spirit Work in the City, Life in the City, Spells for Urban Living, and So Now What? So, I mean, I'm really torn on this book because I love it. I think it's got some amazing information. I want to delve into the history of my city and how was it planned and how does the energy flow, and definitely. But then this activism piece just kind of sticks with me. She has an extensive bibliography of basically online resources, articles, research that she pulled, as well as print resources. I mean, Diana Rachel is obviously highly educated. She is a phenomenal researcher, very, very, well-spoken woman. And you can see that throughout this book. It's fascinating. But it is not necessarily a book on just, hey, you're a witch in a city. Here's how you do witchcraft in the city. It feels a little more like it's pushing you towards this priesthood path where you are somehow beholden, because you are a witch in the city, you are beholden to work towards the greater good. And I don't agree with that. So again, if you know what you're getting into, I think it's a great book. There's definitely a lot of tidbits to take from it. But all in all, I don't know that it necessarily delivered on uncovering the magic hidden between the sidewalk cracks. So yeah, that's my review of Urban Magic, A Guide for the City Witch by Diana Rachel. I definitely recommend if you're kind of interested, pick it up. It's not a bad book. It just, I think, is a little different than what I expected it to be. So yeah, I'd like to hear what you thought of it if you read it. Yeah, drop us a comment. Let us know what you thought. And otherwise, yeah, that's our video for today. We'll catch you in the next one.